Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker with a Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels just kicked Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and final, The Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Retro on the WWE podcast on this Friday, December 23rd, as I'm sure everyone is getting ready for a nice Christmas and happy holidays, whether or not you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever other holiday you may celebrate with you and your family. I hope it's an awesome time, as it really feels like a good time of year, right? And for the first time in 3 years, we have a, quote, normal holiday season with the COVID-19 pandemic, hopefully in the rearview mirror. And up here in Canada, you know, last year, things really took a hard turn for the worst right around this time, where we went right back into lockdown ahead of Christmas, and we lost our second consecutive holiday season. And it just feels good for a bit of normalcy heading in, and I hope for everyone listening that you guys will be able to enjoy it with your loved ones, your family, your friends, the whole 9 yards. Enjoy it. We deserve it, and I hope we all have a normal-ish Christmas. But heading into this week's Christmas break, I guess in a lot of ways, I don't know if Matt is going to do a weekend review, given that it is Christmas this Sunday. We are going to go back about 6 years in time for the 2016 WWE Draft. And this was a time in wrestling that was extremely pivotal, and I don't think we knew it was that pivotal while it was happening, because it had been a long time since we had a hard brand split in WWE. It had been, I would want to say, at least 5 years, going back to 2011, by the time 2016 rolled around. It just felt that everybody was on each other's shows. They had merged the World Heavyweight and WWE Championships. So you had one World Champion. You had one Tag Team Champion. There was one Women's Champion. There was an IC and a US title. But everyone was just crossing over from show to show. And around this period of time, I'm not going to lie, SmackDown was an afterthought. You did not have to watch SmackDown to stay up to date with the principal storylines of the WWE. If you just watch Monday Night Raw, you would be okay. Another reason was because SmackDown was taped. It was still taped on Tuesday nights and would air on, I can't even remember if it was Thursday or Fridays, because it did bounce around between those days and it was different up here in Canada. But it was just an afterthought, and most of the time you would not see the world champion on SmackDown. Like, heading into the 2016 summer, you had Roman Reigns as the champion, and Roman Reigns was not that featured on SmackDown all that much. You could literally get by with the WWE, with following WWE rather, by just following Monday Night Raw. But the power of Monday Night Raw was certainly something of contention when a certain McMahon family member made his return in February of 2016.
My dad was he had a cunning business mind, but he was very kind. He had a really warm heart. He was a very generous person. So the person we honor tonight has those qualities. Not only a great business acumen, but is truly a warm, good-hearted soul. And thus, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the recipient of the Vincent James McMahon Legacy of Excellence Award to Stephanie McMahon. Awesome. I wasn't expecting this. Who else would you expect? It's a Legacy Award.
So Shane McMahon's return, which we have covered at length here on this podcast, was the main catalyst into eventually splitting the brands, because Shane comes back, obviously demands control of Monday Night Raw, and as a result, he faces off against The Undertaker for said control of the brand, loses that match. But then Vince is so impressed by Shane's return, and I wonder if this was planned or if it was just such a successful return that they decided to extend his stay as an on-screen character, that they kept him around hosting or being the special GM of Raw and controlling it for subsequent Raws following WrestleMania 32 and into the spring and summer of 2016. Eventually, this would all come to a head as Vince would make an alternate decision on the future of the company and Raw and SmackDown.
The new commissioner, SmackDown Live, Shane McMahon. However, it is my duty to inform you that I'm relieving you of your responsibilities here on Monday Night Raw. Therefore, the new commissioner of the Juggernaut, the flagship, the 3-hour flagship of WWE, Monday Night Raw's Commissioner Stephanie McMahon.
Wow. That's a blockbuster. Stephanie's running Raw. Shane's running SmackDown.
I want the two of you to compete, and I mean for real. You're going to be running SmackDown Live. You're going to be running Monday Night Raw, okay? I want you to compete in terms of television ratings. I want you to compete in terms of social media metrics. I want you to compete in terms of live event attendance records. I want you to compete in merchandise. I don't care what it is. I want you, the two of you, to compete, and I really mean compete. One of you just might inherit the keys to the kingdom. I want you to compete so badly that I don't give a damn if you break the law. So, which one of you is going to prove to me that you should inherit the keys to the kingdom? And before you answer that in your own mind and show the world, I want to say this. You both need someone to run your day-to-day business. You both need a general manager, because you can't compete on this level without one. So next week here on Raw, you're going to name a general manager. You're going to name a general manager to run SmackDown and Raw, respectively. And if you don't, I'll name one for you.
So Vince puts each of the McMahons into powers on SmackDown and Raw, respectively. And he mentioned something key in there. One thing, well, actually two key things, with hindsight being what it is. The first thing was SmackDown Live. That this was the first time that SmackDown was going to move to Tuesday nights and be broadcasted live. So right off the hop, you saw that they were going to make a conceited effort to really try and elevate SmackDown onto the same level as Monday Night Raw. And we know how they felt about Raw back in the day. As Vince said, the 3-hour juggernaut, the flagship show of WWE. And it's crazy how time changes everything, eh? Because you fast forward 6.5 years, and I would argue that Raw has been playing second fiddle to SmackDown for the better part of 2 years now. Since Roman Reigns returned, it has been clear which show is the better one. And it's SmackDown all the way. Even with a quasi-brand split as we have now, although the Bloodline seems to be absolved from brand split rules, it is clear that SmackDown is the most watched show. It's clear that it is the best show. And the fact that it's only 2 hours as opposed to Monday Night Raw makes it much more digestible. I'll be honest with you. I have a hard time sitting through Monday Night Raw, but I always have time for SmackDown. 3 hours is just too long for a weekly episodic show. A non-pay-per-view show should not be more than 2 hours, and I think that has been Raw's demise for far too long here, as they usually have to fill that extra hour with nonsense. It has been better under Triple H, but again, I think that there's only so much you could do on a week-to-week basis to fill each of those hours responsibly and with good quality content. So as Vince said, they each have to name a general manager. And these selections would both be fan favorites in the eyes of the crowd.
The new general manager of Monday Night Raw!
The Hall of Famer, Mick Foley. Great choice.
After trivia, one of the craziest and most creative individuals I've ever seen.
Thank you, Stephanie, for this incredible opportunity. And thank you for naming me the general manager of Monday Night Raw right here in Providence, Rhode Island. Have a nice day.
Yeah!
Who could I possibly think of? Who could be more popular and better than Mick Foley? Ladies and gentlemen,
More popular.
the SmackDown Live General Manager. That is huge. Huge. You gotta be kidding me. The last movement is back. Daniel Bryan. I can't believe it. One of the most popular superstars of all time, having an incredible career, cut short. But that career is just getting started again as a new general manager of SmackDown. What a move by
So Shane McMahon one-ups Stephanie McMahon by naming Daniel Bryan the GM of SmackDown after she reveals who the GM of Raw will be in Mick Foley. And obviously Daniel Bryan had retired from in-ring competition earlier on in that year, still under contract with WWE. He had spoken about this on, I believe it was Renee Paquette's podcast, about how he didn't really want to do it. I believe, so don't quote me on this, but I would encourage you to go listen to it. But I don't think he was too keen on the idea of being the SmackDown general manager, but I think it was a good way to get eyeballs on the product. Because like I said, it had been 5 years, give or take, since SmackDown had been taken seriously as a true counterpart to Monday Night Raw. And a way to get people to take it seriously was to have a fan favorite running the show. And it wasn't just Daniel Bryan, it was Shane McMahon as well. Those two were incredibly over. Shane McMahon in his first calendar year back with the WWE was incredibly over. So I think that the fact that they put the babyface team over on SmackDown to run things was a way to get people to really watch the show. But at the same time, Mick Foley, the ultimate babyface of babyfaces, was a good choice for Monday Night Raw as well. But you always had the hovering of the heel Stephanie McMahon overseeing everything. But who was running each show could only go so much. Now it was time to see which talent would be going to each brand. And once again, trying to make SmackDown feel as competitive as ever against the, quote, juggernaut Monday Night Raw, the WWE really made sure to load up SmackDown with recognizable faces.
But let's get down to business, shall we? We are all here for one reason and one reason only, and that is the draft. So since Monday Night Raw is the 3-hour flagship show, we get the first pick. Mick, why don't you make the announcement?
back in the day.
It's an honor, Stephanie. And with our first pick this evening,
We would like to pick Seth Rollins!
Well, there it is. That's the pick that every superstar wanted to be. He's going to make the headlines. He's going to make the big contract. And the Raw team obviously thinks Seth Rollins is going to win the WWE title fight. And now, for SmackDown Live, our first pick. Drum roll, please.
SmackDown Live's very first pick is the current and future WWE Champion, Dean Ambrose!
Huge move from SmackDown. Talk about matching Raw's pick. You got the current WWE Champion, the Lunatic Prince.
What Raw needed was a very strong women's division, which is why we're using our next pick to draft the WWE Women's Champion, Charlotte.
One pick, WWE Women's Champion Charlotte goes number 3 overall. Talk about the women's revolution.
For SmackDown's second pick, we would like to announce the phenomenal AJ Styles. Yeah, and part of the confident, phenomenal choice for Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan. AJ Styles, who's first on the scene here at WWE.
With an eye towards the future, our next draft choice comes from NXT. Finn Balor.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable! Who would have thought that an NXT star would go in the top 5 picks by Finn Balor? This guy is special.
So you have obviously Raw have 3 picks for every SmackDown 2 picks, and you look at how the landscape shaped out right away. Obviously, Seth Rollins was still kind of attached to the Authority at this time, so it made sense that he was drafted first overall by Stephanie McMahon. Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles going to SmackDown Live. You know, I've covered the era of SmackDown Live on this show, but I thought that those two being the face of that brand in its inception, because obviously you had SmackDown, but this new era of SmackDown, I thought was brilliant. I thought that AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose as the faces of SmackDown Live in the initial part of this brand split was absolutely phenomenal, no pun intended. And obviously Dean Ambrose, the current WWE champion at the time of this draft, and it just, I'll just say it, I think I've said this before, but the biggest mistake they made with Dean Ambrose was taking him away from SmackDown. Dean Ambrose should have been the face of SmackDown, kind of like what they did with AJ Styles. He absolutely was meant to be on SmackDown and blaze his own trail. He went back over to Monday Night Raw in 2017, and he instantly started playing second fiddle to the likes of Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and all that. So I really do miss or criticize the move to take Dean Ambrose away from SmackDown, because he was the first ever selection of SmackDown Live in this era when they brought it back in 2016, the brand split, that is. And then obviously AJ Styles would become a focal point of SmackDown for years on end, and it would become be known as the house that AJ Styles built. And over on Monday Night Raw, you get Finn Balor, who obviously was the first ever Universal Champion, a run that was cut incredibly short due to injury against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam that year. But all in all, good draft picks. And Charlotte, of course, the first woman to get drafted in this draft, goes 3rd overall and takes the then WWE Women's Championship over to Raw, and it becomes rebranded as the Raw Women's Championship. But let's get to the second round.
Last night, your brother Shane O'Mac alluded to the fact that I might be your puppet, easily manipulated, and I'm here to show with our pick that you will respect my opinion, and sometimes we'll have to agree to disagree, and that is the case with our Raw draft pick. Welcome to Raw, Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns! Roman Reigns drafted to Monday Night Raw. And Roman Reigns, remember, returns on Sunday, part of the triple threat at the Battleground pay-per-view.
In the second round, SmackDown drafts the face that runs the place, the 15-time world champion, John Cena.
We were asking when John Cena would get drafted. Cena officially off the market and headed to SmackDown.
It's interesting, he's going to SmackDown with his arch rival AJ Styles.
Ladies and gentlemen, Monday Night one and only, the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar!
Incredible pick, incredible pedigree. For the nightmare of Suplex City, Brock Lesnar goes to Raw.
And for SmackDown Live's next pick, the third generational superstar, the Viper, Randy Orton.
The Viper returns at Battleground pay-per-view Sunday, part of the Jericho highlight reel. In many cases, Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Awesome pick.
I think I need to do a little setup. Can you give me like a drum roll though?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. No, like with your tongue, like. Don't you dare be sour! Clap your hands for the tag team champions, the New Day!
Well, there they are. The tag team champions stay together as a team. New Day drafted to Monday Night Raw.
Well, that was very cringe. I forgot about how cringe some of Stephanie and Mick Foley's selections were. But you see the rosters really shaping out on the top end of things. And you look over at SmackDown, they take John Cena and Randy Orton in the second round. So now you have John Cena, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and Dean Ambrose. So not only do you have two of the hottest superstars in the company at this point in AJ and Dean, along with the WWE Championship, but now you have the two biggest legacy stars over on the brand as well. So you really saw SmackDown trying to load up its roster with noteworthy talent and name recognizable talent to make sure that everyone again felt that it was on an even playing field with Monday Night Raw. And over on Monday Night Raw, you get the tag team champions in the New Day, who were only 2 years into their run at this point, so they were far from as stale as they are today. Crazy that they've been doing this act for 8 years now, but I digress. You have Brock Lesnar, obviously one of the most, recognizable talents that they have, probably the biggest superstar at their disposal at this point, aside from John Cena. And then aside from that, you have Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns, as we know, being pushed as the top babyface in the company at this time. He won the WWE Championship at the WrestleMania that year. He had won the Royal Rumble the year before that and main evented WrestleMania. He was a guy that this was right in the heart of the Roman Reigns babyface push, as they desperately tried to get him over in that regard. But obviously to no avail for another, 4 years or so, until they finally decided to make the best decision that they've made in quite some time and turn him heel and start the current storyline that they've been on for the past 2+ years. So you see the rosters shaping out as we get into the third round, where we really start to see each brand tackle its depth.
Well, the number one show always gets the number one pick. And Raw chooses the underdog from the underground, Sami Zayn!
What? I can't believe this pick. After what you just witnessed, Sami Zayn getting choke slammed right out of his shoes, and you still pick it for Raw?
And for SmackDown's next pick, we choose the face of fear, Bray Wyatt.
Wow. We talked about this earlier, the possibility of the Wyatts being drafted to separate brands, and we know officially Bray Wyatt, the newest member of the SmackDown roster.
And we intend to make our next draft choice one of the faces of Raw. Because starting now, every Monday night, Raw is boss. Our draft choice, Sasha Banks.
Well, Sasha Banks is going to be in action coming up here on SmackDown Live. So added to the Raw star power, the boss is headed to Raw.
But I think you missed out on the best woman superstar, which is who we're going to pick right now. And that's the last kicker, Becky Lynch.
I like this choice. Becky Lynch. The first on the scene at the start of the Divas Revolution is taking things to the next step with the Women's Revolution. I like it too, Michael. She's coming to SmackDown Live.
Raw picks Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho. That's a great pick. Y2J. I mean, he's a legend in this industry.
So as we get into the third round, you start to see a lot of the women start to come off the board. Becky goes to SmackDown. She would become the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion. Was the initial face of that division until dropping it to Alexa Bliss shortly into her run. I believe she would drop it at the Backlash or No Mercy pay-per-view. And then obviously we would know what she would do 2 years later in 2018 and ultimately become arguably the biggest women's star that they've ever had. In a lot of ways, you can make that argument that Becky Lynch is the biggest women's competitor WWE has ever produced. And Sasha Banks goes to Monday Night Raw, and she would start a very historic program with Charlotte Flair. And I think that Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks would really kind of spearhead the women's revolution over on Monday Night Raw. You have Bray Wyatt go to SmackDown, who I think underwhelmed in a lot of ways. Again, they ripped him away from SmackDown and sent him to Monday Night Raw, which I thought was a big, big mistake. Even though he had won the WWE Championship a couple months later and would main event the SmackDown side of things at WrestleMania 33 in one of the more underwhelming main events for a world title against Randy Orton at WrestleMania 33. And then Sami Zayn and Chris Jericho go over to Raw to kind of round out that middle card. It's really weird to see Sami Zayn over on Monday Night Raw because, as we've been reminded of a bunch of times, he's been dubbed the elder statesman of SmackDown, and Jericho obviously would have that historic run with the list on Monday Night Raw during this era. So let's take a listen to round 4, and then after that we'll wrap it up with some of the lower end draftees.
Raw selects United States Champion Rusev with Lana.
Whoa. That is a great pick right there. Yeah, when you hear those words coming out of the mouth of Lana or Rusev, you know somebody's in serious damage. 2 for the price of 1, Raw got as well.
I kind of hate to be doing this, but we need the Intercontinental Championship. SmackDown Live's next pick is The Miz and Maurice.
Yes, but I completely understand this, but you want to have credibility on your brand, you want to have legitimacy, so to have the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, on SmackDown is a great pick.
And Raw picks the prize fighter, Kevin Owens.
Hey, another good pick. Though the cantankerous Canadian gets his wish, he's finally chosen Kevin Owens. Will be a member of Raw. I love this pick.
Our next pick, SmackDown Live selects Baron Corbin.
Whoa. Interesting pick here. What potential the Lone Wolf has, the winner of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania earlier this year. He is a future WWE champion. I agree with you. This guy could go all the way.
I have a way with words, and the word I would use to describe Shane and Daniel tonight is spelled S-A-W-F-T. So, because this certified GM selects Enzo and Cass.
Man.
And you can't teach that.
It looks like Shane was preparing to choose these two as well. He just tore his feet there, but there's your pick, Enzo and Cass.
So it shows you it's something of the times, right? Like Baron Corbin, a future WWE champion. And to be honest, I remember when he was the Lone Wolf, I really thought that this guy was going to be huge. I thought that he was going to be one of the main players in WWE, but obviously we know what happened to Baron Corbin's career. And I still think that taking him away from the Lone Wolf gimmick was a terrible, terrible idea. Then you have Enzo and Cass go to Monday Night Raw, a tag team that was the up-and-coming team out of NXT, super over, super popular. And then, Kevin Owens going to Monday Night Raw, and then them splitting the 2 mid-card championships with Rusev taking the U.S. title to Raw and The Miz taking the Intercontinental Championship over to SmackDown. And then, in the later rounds, you had Sheamus and Cesaro go to Monday Night Raw along with Gallows and Anderson. On the SmackDown side of things, you had the likes of Dolph Ziggler go there, Alexa Bliss go there, Natalya go there to kind of round out the lower end of the roster. Rhino and Heath Slater, which would be the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions. American Alpha, the Usos went over to SmackDown as well. So, you really had, after this, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan went to SmackDown as well. So Braun Strowman went over to Monday Night Raw that was the first time he got split away from the Wyatt family. But all in all, we covered the main draftees to each respective brand. And it's just crazy to go back and look at the landscape of the WWE 6.5 years ago, during a time where they brought back the brand split, and they haven't stayed completely true to it over the last 6.5 years. But for the most part, it has been in effect. And this was the night that kicked it all off 6.5 years ago, with SmackDown being led by Shane and Daniel Bryan, and Raw being led by Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon. Well, anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the 2016 WWE Draft. As always, you can get me on Twitter at ADemarco25. You can get Matt on Twitter at wrestling_audio, or you can email him each and every week for the WWE Podcast Mailbag. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.